is a video about the Stage 2 upgrade kit for TFC Hades, aka Liokaiser. The Stage 2 kit includes these thighs that basically allow you to cover up some of the black and add whatever color you want, whatever paint you want to make the thighs look different. More importantly is it adds a lot of stability because it changes the positions of the legs. There's new adapters that go into Shapeways to allow the attachment of these particular pieces in the thighs, and I'll show you how those get installed. There's of course these pieces which are very similar to the Stage 1 kit, and these pieces which also work with the Stage 1 kit. So I'll show you how all this works, how you install it, and what it does for the figure.
So let's start with installation. To begin with, let's look at this. We've got some screws in the sides of the legs, and you got to go to the inside of the legs. There's a screw here, and a screw here. So you're just going to undo those. This side I've already undone them. And what happens is when you undo them, you can take the leg halves apart. Usually this little part will pop off. It's got a little ball socket on it. And just gently pry those apart. You may have to twist them a bit, and when you do that, eventually the legs will come apart. I've already got the piece out of here. There will be an extra piece in there. As you pull that out, take that piece out. You're going to need this part, and how it works is you want this, let me double check here. Yeah, you want this part facing out. So see how there's one side of it that doesn't have a ledge? You want that part facing out. And then what you do is put the leg back on. So in this case, let me double check I got this right. You want this going through there like that. And then this part comes here like this. And then you just pin those together and put the screws back in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now to change the connectors in the legs, it's these little red connectors. I actually already have this set installed here, but I'm going to, because I had this in for testing, but I am going to show you what's involved in getting this replaced with the newer style connector. And it's a little trickier, but it can be done. So you'd think that it's just a couple of screws here, and you'd be good to go. But unfortunately, it's not. The halves have to be separated, the chest and the back. So to begin with, what you need to do is locate the two screws here so that you can separate the front and back halves of the crotch, and that's going to get you access to the mechanism in here, and I'll get to that in a bit. But unfortunately, you got to do that. So I'm just going to undo these, and then you want to do the exact same thing on the other side. So again, you're looking for two screws. You got a screw here and a screw here. So I'm going to get those loosened up to begin with. And now that the screws are undone, what it does is it gains you access to the waist parts. So this part you want to be a little careful. Usually I just kind of back off one side and get this piece out of here. And then you can see that there's the mushroom half in there. And then you can take this part out. And we're going to be focusing on this top half. You can put the legs away for now. Same on the other leg here. What you're going to do is just pull that off and keep that area. We don't need these halves here. And then we're going to be focused on this half. The next step, we'll just start with the this is kill bison side. So what you want to do is, forgive me if I got the names wrong. What you want to do here is you actually want to undo these screws. So we've got two here. I'm going to back those out. And then this other one is a little trickier to get at, but not horrible. It's in here. It's this little screw right here. And you just need a nice fine screwdriver. That's why I really like this one, to get into that area. So get those three undone. Okay, so I missed one screw. There is one screw up top here. And then once you back this guy out, I'll just get that one there. Once you get that one out, then that's going to give you access to this. We're finally there. And then this is even kind of tricky because you got to pull this out and just pull it gently off the peg. And this is interesting. So when you first get this part, how do you get this part out? just push. And there's a little spring here, so be careful. And then that'll expose the part there. So what you want to do is when you put this in, make sure that this is facing up. So there's sort of a hollow side and a flat side. Make sure the flat side is facing up. And then you want to just key into that H shape there. And then you can put this back there and then put this back on the post. And that should get you this part replaced. And then I'll put them back together and I'll show you what happens on the other side. Now on the other side, of course, we've got a pin. So that does make it a little more complicated, but it's still doable. The pin is, you can see it's located here and you have access to either side. And what you want to do is see if you can find which end has knurling. I don't know if this one does have any knurling. I'm going to try and push it through on this side. I've got just another little pin that I found from some of my RC stuff. And even like a fine nail would do. I'm just going to try pushing it that way. Yeah, it looks like it's going. So what you do is just push it as much as you can from one side. And then hopefully that gives you access to the pin. And again, this one wasn't too tight, so it wasn't too bad. And then you got to be careful. You don't want to bend the pin or affect it in any way. But once you do that, that'll get the pin out. And then that gives you access to these 4 screws. You're going to undo these 4 screws, and then that's going to get you access to this part here. So the 4 screws are out. And then that's going to give me access to this. And this, luckily, is the same as the first side I showed you. So again, you're just going to push on the top. Make sure that spring doesn't go flying. Back that out, and then install your piece. And then to put it back together, just going to put this with the spring in here gently, and then put that, trap the spring. You want to trap the spring in that little mechanism there, like that. And put the post back on. And you're good to go there. And then you really just start putting it back together with the same steps as before. So the 4 screws are tight. And then the trick to getting this back in is to line up these 2 little posts here. Are going to go into those little sockets there. So line that up. And then what I like to do is just get the pin in a little bit here. Just get it up to the point where you're close. Get the posts in and then just push. And that should get you part of the way. And then I'll sometimes use like the pliers or some other tool to put pressure on the pin. And it's good that you have something kind of bracing it. So I'm going to, it's hard to do this on the stage, but I'm going to be able to push that through. That's going okay. So just a hard flat surface to push it in. And you can see the pin's going in. Now when you get to the other side, you kind of want to check that things are still lining up. Like you want to make sure that you're not sort of stretching this purple plastic as it comes through. So you want to be a little bit careful with the pins, but don't let pins scare you, you know, like, you know, they're often sort of, oh no, I've run into this in the assembly of a transformer and I'm never going to take it apart because it has a pin. But, you know, these ones aren't even knurled, and you can see that was pretty easy to get back in. And then the waists, again, are the same on both sides pretty much. So you have a back side here, and here's your front side. And because this is a mushroom, you can do it either way. Make it this way. A little trickier to assemble it. You may want to attach this on there first. This here. Just kind of line everything up, nest everything together. And there, that's all attached together. And now I can kind of move this around to get at the screws in there. I'm going to put the screws back in. And basically, to do the other leg, it's the exact same thing. So now we've got our ports installed. Okay, so I've got the fasteners in on either side, and then let's just transform it. So what's interesting is normally this piece is able to hinge and kind of tuck away. So in this case, you can't quite put it as flat. So put these guys up like this, and then bring that there. This won't go as flat, so you just kind of hook that around and cover up the extension as much as possible. Flip these around. And that's your vehicle mode. That's one way you can do it. It'll look something like that. So it still works. The alternative is to have this flipped down a little bit more. You just you actually open up these panels, okay, and then put the panels down and out of the way, and then you can tuck them in this way, and that'll give you a slightly different look. So that's an alternative. It's not really the greatest alt mode to begin with, so you know, I'm certainly not crying over it, but that's another way you can transform. Let me see if I can get that more straight. Yes, you can get it straight, and you can have it look like that. Let's change him into the robot. He does change into the robot, so to do that, these do pass through. So you got to lift this open, and this will pass through. It's tight in there. There's not a lot of room. Passes all the way through to the other side, and then that forms his knee, and then these of course end up being his feet, and then you can flip that around. So he transforms into his robot just fine. So for the next step here, I'm going to show how it works in combine mode. Okay, so let's combine it. And to begin with, I just want to show you how it's going to work in the thigh area and how you transform it. So as you would normally do, you're going to put the wheels towards the back. And then again, you're going to flip this out, and this flips around, and this new connector passes through. Again, this connector doesn't pivot anymore, and that's what's going to add a lot of the stability. You can see this here. I'm trying to rotate it. It won't rotate at all. So you have to kind of slip by it as you rotate the thigh. So I'm just doing that. I'm going to get the panel out of the way and then get this in position. And now the thighs are pretty much ready. The last part is I'm actually going to attach the new extension, which adds some height and also will add the stability. So you can see now I've got almost this Combiner Wars style peg on the end. And what I'm going to do is I've got an equivalent set of grooves here, and I literally am just going to slide that on this channel here, and it's going to pass over all this geometry. And then what it does is there's actually a peg that's popping in here, and I'll show you on the other side. So I've got a peg here and the channel, and the peg actually pops into a little 5mm hole here. So you actually got to take out, there's a little set of clear missiles, you got to take that out. So again, get the channel. Channel is going to clip over this kind of Combiner Wars style, and then you can see the peg in there, and I'm going to pop that on, and then that's going to peg in there. Okay, so then we can see that this is actually now at an angle. This is, sorry, not at an angle, but this is actually offset to the side a little bit. So the legs themselves are actually going to be a little wider than they normally would. And this also adds stability over and above, adding a little bit of height here. And once again, this is the keyhole style. So there's a new piece in there, and that piece has replaced the old hexagonal style adapter. So this isn't going to work with this anymore. We use the new piece, the new keyhole style piece. So that does mean we got to line up the leg. So I just line up the leg and rotate, and then now it's firmly attached. And I'll do that over here. And you just got to line it up and rotate a little bit. There we go. And now he has a little bit wider stance at the legs and a huge amount more stability. Definitely because he's got his legs further out this way, and because now there's no movement in the actual leg part. There is still a little bit of, by the way, there's still a little bit of play in these ratchets, and that's just the nature of their design. But overall, you can see it's a pretty big difference, you know, as I kind of move this guy around. But prior to this, I mean, I couldn't even stand this guy up. He would just topple over. And now we can actually have some fun with them and do some more interesting stances and poses. So it's a pretty big difference overall. So this is the one thigh upgrade. And then we also have a much simpler one, which really just changes the connectors. So that's how it works. Now, something that can help a little bit with stability is literally his footprint. So what I'm going to do here next, I'm just going to break out a couple of other optional parts. And that's these guys. So I painted them up. I painted them to actually match this color, and the feet color. It's all the same. And how these work is there's actually like little snaps in there, and they literally pop on like that. I'm going to do the other side. See how they pop in? And what that does is it actually cleans up the look of the feet a bit, and then also adds a little more forward stability in the figure. So I actually personally prefer this look. I mean, maybe not everybody will like that styling, but it also adds stability.